Good morning and thank you for joining us on Africa This Morning, and happy Good Friday to you and to your family. My name is Beryl Ooro. It is the 18th of April 2014. Let's start the bulletin with a look at the top stories.
Administration police pass out. Kenyan government sends stern warning to terrorists as 3,221 administration police recruits graduate. Algeria elections. Algeria's presidential contender Abdelaziz Bouteflika casts ballot and urges Algerians to shun protests. South Africa Township. Poor living standards for many South Africans 20 years after apartheid.
The Kenyan government says it will not relent in its war against terrorists. While addressing a pass-out parade for the administration police recruits, top government officials led by President Uhuru Kenyatta vowed to continue cracking down on the criminals, sending a warning that they have nowhere to hide. The newly recruited officers will be deployed across the country.
President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto led senior government officials in assuring the country that everything possible was being done to restore security. He said the government is ready to disarm those holding illegal firearms once the 2-week ultimatum he issued expires. President Kenyatta said the ongoing security operation was not targeting any religious or ethnic community and cautioned those playing politics with our national security.
Though it pretends to be religiously motivated, we all know that it is little more than criminal viciousness, and we shall treat it as such. We, as a government, will resist the temptation to fight a war of religion or ethnicity.
He was supported by Deputy President William Ruto.
We are ready to ensure that every terrorist is subdued, every cattle rustler is brought to book, and every criminal made to account.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Ole Lenku defended the security operation going on in the country, further warning refugees that they must go back to camps or be arrested.
Those who continuously break the law, involve themselves in criminal activities or terrorist activities, Your Excellency, the writing is on the wall. We will not do our work to their wishes.
Police Chief David Kemaiyo said his officers are under instructions to observe the law while flashing out criminals.
Any officer who goes wayward or who commits an act of indiscipline, then therefore the National Police Service will not hesitate, and through my office we shall take firm, decisive action.
Over 3,000 officers marched off the college to join their colleagues in securing the country. The government of Kenya says it will recruit 10,000 more security officers as it moves to boost its police force. And President Uhuru Kenyatta says nothing will stop the government from cracking down on criminals. Reporting for Ebru Africa TV, I'm Masharia Wamogo.
Kenya's Commission on Administrative Justice wants the managing trustee of the National Social Security Fund to be prosecuted and held responsible for the 5 billion shilling Tasia project, which has been dogged by controversy. The Commission has written to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to move with speed and conduct investigations into the allegations. Sam Gakunyi with that report.
On the 17th December 2013, 3 processes took place in the opening evaluation and awarding of the Tasia 2 housing project tender, a project to put up roads and sewerage systems of the pension body's Tasia estate. Fast forward to year 2014, the Ombudsman would receive complaints in regard to the tender from 2 Kenyans. The Secretary General of Kenya's Workers' Union Body, Francis Atwoli, and Jacqueline Mogo, the chairperson of Kenya's Federation of Employers. They conducted investigations for 3 months.
On an investigation by the Commission conducted between 15th January and 15th April 2014 revealed that the said parties abused power in regard to approval of the Tasia 2 housing project, thereby contravening Article 10 and Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
The Commission noted that the procurement process was flawed.
The Commission noted that the procurement process was mismanaged. The alleged approval was done electronically by 4 out of 6 board members, contrary to the requirements of the law. The opening, evaluation and award of the tender was rushed.
The Ombudsman now alleges that public funds were lost in the tendering process as the amount was altered.
The budget captured the upper limit payable for consultancy costs as 81 million, even as it could be argued that the actual amount payable would be less. For that reason, the approval of 424 million was illegitimate, as it was done without any basis.
Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi has since suspended the project. The Commission is calling for the recovery of 11 million shillings that is alleged to have been paid to the Nairobi County Government as fee for inspection of the project plan. The county government never received the money. Sam Gakunyi, Ebru Africa News, Nairobi, Kenya.
And to North Africa, the incumbent candidate in the Algeria's presidential elections, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, cast his ballot yesterday in the capital Algiers as the citizens voted in the presidential election across the country. Bouteflika is widely expected to win a 4th term despite his chronic health problems, fraud warnings and calls for a boycott.
Algerians are weighing their option for today's presidential election, with ailing Abdelaziz Bouteflika urging a large turnout as he seeks a 4th term amid boycott demands and warning of fraud. More than 260,000 police have been deployed to guarantee security of the 50,000 polling booths set up to accommodate the 23,000 Algerians eligible to vote in the race being contested by 6 candidates. The 77-year-old incumbent, who appears frail and barely audible on a rare occasion he is shown on state television, is widely expected to win another 5-year term. But he faces the damaging possibility of a low turnout, with youth activists and opposition parties calling on Algerians to snap the poll, and many questioning whether he is fit to rule. The gathering was organized by youth protest group Bakarat, which was founded just 2 months ago, specifically to call for change in leadership.
Despite the ongoing demonstrations sparked by the election period, Algerian youth still remain optimistic that their country will get better in time. More youth are now returning home lured by government financial enticements after fleeing the war-torn country in the 90s.
One of the biggest problems facing Algeria's politicians is how to improve the prospects for the country's disaffected youth. With unemployment for the under-35s running at almost 22%, the young are desperate for change.
There is no freedom of expression, no work, there is nothing. I do not know how they run the country, but they do nothing.
There are no safety nets for youth. There is no safety net for the Algerian society. Nothing. They do not give you a chance. This is a big prison.
In the 1990s, young people in Algeria fled the violence ravaging their country. But more and more are returning, with the government offering up to 100,000 euro loans to those looking to set up small and medium-sized businesses. Nassim Awidia is one of more than 300,000 young Algerians to have taken advantage of this scheme since 2008. The entrepreneur set up a small factory making tools that employs 7 people.
I had the opportunity to go to Canada. I was approached by friends who were in Canada because I had a profile that was wanted. But I told myself that I had the opportunity to succeed here, in Algeria, so I look elsewhere.
The authorities decided to extend the program to Algerians living abroad, but inside the country, social unrest continues.
On ne laisse pas les jeunes We do not let the young think for themselves, so they keep their place. I think the state should definitely allow associations, civil movements, let them express themselves. A stronger civil society is a more democratic and free state.
Critics of the scheme accuse the government of using it to boost its image among the youth, as President Abdelaziz Bouteflika stands for a controversial fourth term. Meanwhile, boatloads of illegal immigrants continue to set off from Algerian shores for Europe in search of a better life.
And moving further down, Chad's entire contingent of peacekeepers has been withdrawn from the Central African Republic. The withdrawal followed accusations that Chad had aided the rebel camp in the conflict that ravaged the Central African Republic.
Chad had about 850 soldiers in a 6,000-strong African Union force battling to end conflict between religious warring factions. We are pulling out of Miska. We are going back home now. The UN Security Council voted last week to send 12,000 troops to Central African Republic. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon has warned of ethno-religious cleansing in Central Africa, with lynchings and decapitations going unpunished. France has about 2,000 troops working alongside the AU force. 30 people were killed and another 300 people injured in the shooting, according to a UN report. Chad's foreign ministry dismissed the findings as malicious and said Chadian troops were being blamed for all the suffering in Central Africa. The UN says that about 1.3 million people, that is a quarter of the populations, are still in dire need of aid in Central African Republic.
Judges decided on Thursday that Karim Wade, the son of the former Senegalese president Abdoulaye Wade, will stand trial on corruption charges after accumulating a fortune more than $1 billion. Wade appeared before the West African nation's top anti-corruption prosecutor to justify his income against accusations of illegal wealth acquisition.
A smiling Karim Wade made no comment as he arrived at the Dakar offices of Alion Dao, special prosecutor of the Anti-Corruption Court, who has given the politician 30 days to justify his past and present income. Security officers were forced to use tear gas to disperse angry supporters of the former ruling Senegalese Democratic Party PDS, who shouted "Free Karim" in front of the court. The supporters responded by throwing stones to the officers. The PDS accuses the regime of Macky Sall, who defeated Wade's father in presidential elections last year, of conducting a witch hunt since it came to power. Though this is the first time Wade Jr. is being questioned by the special prosecutor of the Anti-Corruption Court, several leaders of the 2000 to 2012 Wade regime have been repeatedly questioned by police and judges investigating allegations of illegal enrichment. According to a judicial source, the 44-year-old is also under investigation in France following a complaint by the Senegalese government for the alleged embezzlement of public funds, misuse of corporate assets, and corruption.
And to South Africa, Oscar Pistorius' defense suffered a huge blow on Wednesday after the prosecution challenged the credibility of a defense witness. Roger Dixon, a geologist at the University of Pretoria and a former policeman, was accused of being unqualified to testify as an expert witness as he challenged the state's murder case against the athlete.
The prosecution in the Oscar Pistorius murder trial challenged the credibility of a defense witness on Wednesday. Prosecutor Jerry Nell scrutinized testimony given by this man, geologist Roger Dixon.
Are you a sound expert, sir?
Dixon had told the court he did audio tests to check if the sound of a bat hitting a locked door could sound much like a bullet being fired. Pistorius is charged with shooting dead his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp last year from behind a bathroom door in his Pretoria home. Neighbors have testified hearing gunshots that night, but the defense says it was the former track star swinging a bat at the door to reach his shot girlfriend.
What expert skills did you use?
I made a sound.
So your expertise was wielding a bat?
Dixon also gave testimony on visibility during the shooting, but Nell put that too under scrutiny, suggesting the witness wasn't expertly qualified to make such testimony.
Your analysis of visibility in the dark, did that require any expert skill?
My lady, the instruments I used there were my eyes.
But the defense, too, pushed back on Wednesday. It said the prosecution's theory that Steenkamp was behind the door when the first of 4 bullets struck just couldn't be true. Defense attorney Beryl suggested the prosecution's theory requires a magic bullet.
Can it go from F to the back of the deceased by changing direction from downwards to upwards and then go up and back into the toilet?
My lady, not in the world that I live in. I won't say it's improbable, I'll say it's impossible. Logically, it cannot happen.
Pistorius insists the shooting was an accident and that he thought Steenkamp was an intruder. He faces life in prison if convicted of murder. The trial continues on Thursday before taking a short break for Easter.
Following the vigorous campaigns against poaching, many are still exercising the vice, with some buying the end products not knowing the exact source, and with some believing ivory has medicinal value, while others use it for prestigious purposes.
A time is told when no one knew much about the use of ivory, and the wild was a heritage to many nations. Many would only visit the wild in appreciation of nature. During the Middle Ages, poaching was a type of hunting mainly done by the poor people, especially during the time when hunting was a dispensation set aside for landowners and the nobility. During the 16th century, murdering a deer was a punishable offense. Authentic hunting necessitates weapons, substantial skill, and a lot of free time, which the poor peasants basically did not have. But now, with more and more technological skills, poachers are using sophisticated machinery to commit the vice.
Poachers today are more sophisticated in the manner that they are poaching our wildlife. And indeed, we have to match them or even be better than them.
Those buying the ivory end products are not fully aware of the source of the trophy.
Ivory, most of the people who are the consumers of ivory or who buy ivory buy it, most of them for prestige, decorations in houses, and it describes you, who you are as a status in the society. And for every ivory that you keep in your house, an elephant has died. Because there's this misconception where people think that you can trim ivory and the elephant survives to grow another tusk again for you to trim another time. But the fact is that for every ivory that is you see, an elephant has died.
Most of them just have no idea how they get this ivory. People think there's an injection that you inject to an elephant and they drop the tusks. There's a belief that actually this tusks are from the stores. So I think more than just people being rich, I think there's so much a gap of people having no knowledge of what is actually happening in Africa.
In the spirit to save the wild from poaching, Howard Buffett, son of the famous American investor and philanthropist Warren Buffett, has written 8 books on poaching and has now decided to direct funds from his foundation to support anti-poaching efforts in the Selous Game Reserve in Tanzania, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For Ebru Africa News, I'm Miriam Kanyugo.
Going back to South Africa, 20 years on since the end of apartheid, conditions for many South Africans in the townships remains poor, just as they were under the white minority rule. Violence and lack of basic services have sadly become the order of the day.
20 years since the end of apartheid, and violence continues to flare up in South Africa's townships. Many protests are about the lack of basic services like water and electricity, and the lack of government response.
We have to. We don't have a choice. We have to. If ever this government is not ready to listen to us, then violence maybe will make them listen.
About 40% of South Africa's households live in townships, settlements near cities where blacks were forced to live under white minority rule. Now, despite 2 decades of democracy, many South Africans are simply too poor to live elsewhere. Milton Mvalasi shares this one-bedroom dormitory with his family in Soweto, South Africa's biggest township.
We don't know freedom here. Our lives have not changed. We don't have toilets or running water. We're using paraffin for cooking and we're lighting candles.
Many of Milton's neighbours share his frustrations, struggling to cope in cramped conditions, often without running water or electricity. But older members of the community remember the past and feel grateful for the present.
Our people, they were running at night. The whites, they're shooting them. One man have died in my yard. But today, I think everything is right. Because now you can't see that. Here in Soweto now, we're 100% better.
Some parts of Soweto have seen real improvements, thanks to almost $50 billion of government and private investment and the 2010 World Cup. There's now a shopping mall, sports facilities and better quality housing. And a theatre opened 2 years ago, testament to the township's growing middle class. But South Africa's sprawling townships stand as proof that despite the political freedom won by Mandela, the country's deep inequalities will take longer to fix.
And with that, we come to the end of the Bulletin on Africa this morning. Join us next as we take a look at the conversations this Good Friday on our social media platform with Charity Chikene.